It is. All right. I think we're having a few issues with technology, but hopefully this is working. Welcome to our Sharing Stories live stream tonight is Mums Run Kunanyi, but this, if you're tuning in, isn't just for mums. This is for lots of women, men, anyone who's interested in I guess, helping yourself do more running and balancing, family life or life in general, but also how you might be able to support those people in your life. I am Catherine Grau. I look after KMR's media and marketing. So all the social media, all the comms that you receive, I'm the person behind that. But I am also, and because KMR is a family event or family-run event, I'm Lincoln Quilliam, the RG's partner, and mum to our little son, Charlie. And I'm so excited and so grateful for the very patient women who've joined us this evening. It's always very difficult to balance mum life and kids and running and then the extra things thrown on top of it as well. And then we've had a lot of technical issues. So thank you to the three of you who are joining us this evening. I'm really excited about this conversation. I'll quickly introduce the three of them here. We've got Lisa Counsell, who is a trail running coach, who apparently used to hate running. We might need to find out a little bit more about that, but fell in love with it once she realised that it's just her legs, the trails and nature, and that's as simple as it really is, and I think why a lot of us probably do run. She's been running the Steps to KMR training groups as part of her run coach company, Tread Running, and we're super excited to have you to hear a bit more about what you've been doing, Lisa, and also lots of tips, etc. We've got Johanna Robertson, who is from the beautiful Penguin up in the northwest coast of Tasmania, who took up running about 5 years ago after the birth of her first child. Started like I have, or I've at least been doing it as well, my return after my first son going to the local park run with the pram. And then she's moved into more events across Tasmania, was a mountain biker before kids, so trails obviously were the place for her. And I really love this. Jo says she's a proud back of the pack runner and an advocate for being a runner at any size or pace. And lastly, we've got Roxanne Wood, who is from Free to Be Bush Play and Learning, and who I'm so excited said yes when I, out of the blue, emailed to say, would she be interested in providing childcare drop-off or kind of a bush play drop-off so that people could run KMR this year. She's originally an early years and primary school teacher, moved into nature play work and runs sessions, bush play sessions, several times a week across Hobart as well, and as a mum of two, including a very small, I think 4-month-old you have now, Roxanne?
Almost 3.5.
Almost 4-month-old. And so, if you're watching in, please be aware that any of us, while we've got, lovely people helping us behind the scenes, may be pulled in other directions as well and need to go off and be a mum as well. So thank you guys for being here. We might as well, because we were a little bit late, we're going to jump straight into things. So I'd like to start first by asking about how we juggle running and our family commitments. How do we sign up to events when we, particularly a lot of us, come from, if we're, have another parent around, they are also a runner. So who makes the sacrifice? Is it the woman who normally makes the sacrifice? Jo, I'd just love to start with you to open up and perhaps share some of your stories about how you juggle running and your family.
Yes, it is an endless juggle, that's for sure. My partner does run and cycles as well, and I think he is very supportive of me getting out running, but I find that unless I have a goal to work towards, it is difficult to prioritise running. So I find personally having a goal or an event coming up is really the push I need to make sure that I'm consistent. But we run a pretty detailed family calendar, so we're pretty quick to schedule our own sort of run or ride times in. It sort of works out that hubby takes the mornings and then I get the nights, and that's sort of been working, and then he usually does the Saturday morning and leaves the Sunday morning for me. So we've sort of got this bit of an unspoken rule about who gets to do what when, but it doesn't always work that smoothly. I'm a shift worker as well, so we've got the complication there of, I'm not always home late at night or early morning to allow him to exercise or for me to get my runs in. So yeah, just it is a lot of planning that goes on in our house, definitely. And then in regards to events, it's sort of, a bit of a juggle. Can we do this? Is it going to work? Is the training going to work? Because really, it's one thing to enter an event, but making sure you've got time to train leading up to that is really the most important thing. So yes, it is a struggle.
And Jo, I mean, to that point of making sacrifices, I know last year you ran KMR, you ran the Foothills 9 kilometre on the Sunday because you had the kids on the Saturday when your husband was running in a team relay for the ultra course. How did that conversation go about? Was that an even deal, or did you want to do something else but couldn't?
It was hard. I had just done Gone Nuts, which was 25Ks, and I think there was only 2 weeks break in between, similar to this year. And so I sort of was happy not, to make the sacrifice and say, okay, I'll do the 9K instead. And it was awesome that it was on a different day. Often with trail run events, everything's on the same day, so we don't get that opportunity. So it was nice that I could still do the Foothills the following day. And because he was part of a team and he's quite fit and fast, so I guess he's in demand for people that want him as part of their team. I do feel like maybe I take a little bit of a backseat to allow him to have those opportunities. But now he's moving back into sort of mountain biking more than running. It's freed up me to be able to do the events that I want to do, which has sort of been good. But then yeah. So I was absolutely thrilled to hear that KMR had come up with a solution for parents who both want to run on the Saturday. I think the bush play is just an amazing opportunity.
Well, that's a great segue as well. I was going to ask Lisa for her experiences, but we can kind of come back to that later as well. So for those of you who don't know much about it, I'll get Roxanne to probably be better off explaining it. But basically, yeah, as you say, Jo, we saw that there was an issue and that a lot of women do, whether they realise it or not, perhaps subconsciously, kind of always just say, oh, yeah, you're fitter or you've trained more or, you deserve this more than I do. And so don't necessarily, stand up and say, I want to run this event. This is really important to me. So we hope to, where there are two parents, be able to encourage both parents to be able to run on the same day. Or if there are single parents, making that hopefully a little bit easier for them as well. Or for those travelling from interstate and trying to work out, well, who's your babysitter for your kids if you want to bring them along, because a whole festival is really aimed at the whole family. So Roxanne, tell us a little bit about bush play, and particularly, I guess, in the context of KMR, because it is a little bit different than what you normally run. Parents normally go to your sessions, but now we're asking parents to drop the kids off with you, so they might want to know a bit more about you and what their kids will do.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our first drop-off event, which has been really exciting. So Free to Be was kind of born with that village in mind. So we're very much family-based, family business, and really passionate about a village and providing space for families to come and learn more about bush play and things like that. So for this event, I was really stoked, obviously, when you got in touch, and just really thought what you're doing is so amazing. I love, the more I am a mum, the more I crush on mums and how epic they are. And anything that breaks down some of the barriers that we have, because it is, mums always come last, and it can be really challenging. Even if you do want to run, you're naturally the one generally organising the babysitter, and that can be a whole task in itself. So I'm really, really stoked to be part of this and to offer a great day for the kids, because it is such a beautiful event. There's so much going on. And so I kind of took what you do already, I suppose, and was inspired by that. And the natural land is such a big part of what we do, obviously, bush play. Our values are freedom, connection, and community. So we're all about connecting to each other and connecting to the natural space around us. And I went and had a walk with Kat at the space, and it's a really beautiful bush, and we're right near the finish line, which was really cool. So mixed in some things. We're going to be making some clay medals for parents as they come through, to cheer them on and give them a bit of an award. And so we're going to have, it's a bit different to what we normally do. We'll have a lot more resources. We're bringing in a lot more resources for older kids, so have things like pulleys and kind of stations, I suppose, chill out zones for kids who might need a bit of a rest. It is a pretty long day, potentially. So just making sure that everyone's really looked after and there's something for everyone. So that's freedom is such a big part of what we do, that I always say, no activity is mandatory. If your kid doesn't want to do the clay, that's absolutely fine. They might want to sit in the hammock the whole time, and that's really what they need in that moment. And how gorgeous that you can sit and have a hot cup of tea, or run 25Ks if that's your jam. So I hope that answers it. I
that's great. Excited. And if anyone does have any questions as well on watching it online for Roxanne or anyone, feel free to pop them in. We can all see them and we can share them and get them answered that way too. Lisa, you've got obviously a mix, or had a mix, of women who running part of your Steps to KMR program, some mums, some who aren't, etc. You're a mum yourself as well, so maybe we can come to that personal perspective as well, or from what you've heard from them. People have said this is a game changer, and I'm part of KMR, so I'm biased, but is it really going to change, I guess, the sport, I guess, in the industry, if we're trying this out and giving this opportunity for women, parents, and their kids? What do you reckon?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I have been waiting for an event to do this for years, and I also understand why it's taken so long. It's a big commitment, and I think Roxanne's an absolute superstar for volunteering to have a whole bunch of kids in the middle of the open wilderness kind of thing. And I just think it's so good. This year I'm coaching, I'm not running. I'm still considering using it so that my husband can run and I can coach. So that, it just always feels like going to an event, someone, if you've got a partner who runs, has to take the fall. And there's lots of ways you can go about taking turns or prioritizing events at the end of the year, but there's still always that part of me on the day when it's his turn and I'm like, damn it. So to not have to have that moment is just, it's really cool. And also I love that it's not a typical sort of, babysitting service, that it's going to be out in nature and the kids are still getting the event experience, because that part is really lovely. It's really nice that they're near the finish line. That's the part that I really like taking my son to. And we usually do get a day out in the bush, sitting on the side of the trail, cheering people on and handing out lollies and stuff. So it's really nice that, they're not just being left at home as well.
Yeah, and I should say too, for people who perhaps aren't runners and want to be there with their kids while their partner is out running, absolutely they can as well. Separate to Roxanne's bush play, there's going to be lots of activities, and if you haven't checked out our festival booklet, which is on our website, do so, because there's going to be lots of free activities for kids of all ages as well. So a little spruik there. We'll move on in just a second, but I guess there's the question of dropping off your kids to someone that you don't know as well, and I don't know how Lisa and Joe, you guys feel about that. I guess, is it easier once they get a bit older, which we're providing the service for 5 to 12-year-olds? Is that something that events, I guess, should consider or think about as well? How do we support I guess kids of all ages, or parents with kids of all ages as well? And is that something we need to think about when we try something like this?
Personally, I'm just so grateful and excited that I'd just be like, here you go, have fun, kids, I'm going running. But that's just me.
I think the excitement is in the bush play too. It's not just, like you said, being left behind to do something boring or, with grandparents again. It's actually something that, is a bit different, and it feels like they can sort of be involved as well. So I feel like, my kids probably wouldn't have a problem with it. I think they'd just be very excited to be in the bush.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't find, like, I've done drop-offs working for people in different places, and yeah, kids are so excited to be there. And once they, and obviously, I'm a teacher and I've got that experience too. So you can kind of pick up on kids that might need a bit of extra support, or we'll buddy them up, or there are a few different things that we put in place to make sure that they feel safe. And then, there's getting to know each other. We have a circle in the morning. So it's like we become a little family for that day as well. But yeah, I find kids are generally so excited to see what is around. And that might even just be kind of looking at their energy going, oh, would you like to come and have a see what we have today? And you might think of an activity you'd like to start. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as I said, we've got lots we want to cover, so we will move on. But if people are interested in knowing more, feel free to still ask questions while Roxanne is on the line. Both her boys have gone to bed on time, it seems, and staying asleep. And also we've got information on our website that will take you then to Roxanne's site, where you can also book and sign your kids up as well. There's still plenty of space as well. Roxanne's recruited lots of her team as well to be available. The weather's looking really good at the moment as well, which is great for everyone. But of course, yeah, kids being out in the bush for that period of time too. Let's move on to talking about, we kind of touched on this a little bit, Jo, about how you and your family deal with, juggling the family, obligations and everyone getting what they want as well. How do you, so you've already talked about how you carve out regular time to train. Lisa, I was wondering if perhaps you've also got some specific advice for mums, and particularly perhaps new mums who, as Roxanne will attest to, aren't getting a lot of sleep, other things like that. Like if you want to return to running, how do you make all of that work with kids, dealing with your own problems? What advice have you got?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one would be just please get the support of an amazing pelvic health physio if you can. If you're in a regional area, I know that can be a bit harder, but they do amazing things on Zoom these days. And that would just be like, if everyone could do that, I mean, it'd be way better if it was free and supported by Medicare, but it's a lifelong investment. So that's one of the first things that I would say. Just make that time for yourself, and find the right one that you really like as well. That would be just the most important thing. And that sort of sets you up to also, like, you take that first step to go to those appointments, set up your running program, your return to running program. And if you can kind of make that initial investment in yourself, and in that time, it gives you a bit more structure, rather than sort of just being like, okay, today I'm going to start running again, when you've got a baby on one hip and a bottle in the other hand. You've had that sort of framework set up for you, which is really, really helpful. But it is tricky. That first year, the first 5 years, I don't know, it's a juggle. But setting up, those other things that sort of make it work, like you said, Jo, having a family calendar, working out how many runs you want in a week and where they might fit with your family's schedule. I like running in the morning because then nothing can derail my run. And otherwise I kind of just hang out for my run at the end of the day. So things like that, like just working within your kind of natural preferences, and maybe what you did before, Bub. And this works like for non-mums as well. Like just trying to run with your natural rhythms really helps. And then, some more sort of supporting frameworks are like running prams. I love my Tool more than anything in the world. I've done so many Ks with that thing, and they're just, it's freedom. It's freedom on wheels. So that's pretty awesome if you're on mat leave or something. And I think the other thing, is just sort of also to kind of keep in mind that the juggle is real, but there's also light at the end of the tunnel. Training and finding that time for yourself just gets easier as time goes on. As your kids get older, I've got friends now that they're out doing park run with their children, and instead of having to push them at park run or wanting them to run with you, which is even more fun. And suddenly your 30-minute park run goes to an hour and a half. You know, their kids are beating them now, and they're like, damn it, now we really have to start training. So, you know, if you're in a bit of a like tougher place at the moment where your times are sort of blown out, it ends. And this, as some hard as it can be sometimes, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and just try and sort of enjoy getting there, which can be really hard sometimes.
Yeah, and Jo, do you have anything to add to that too? Because I mean, you kind of say that you started running basically after having a baby, so I guess you set up all your new routines and had to get used to it. But even to Lisa's first point about making sure you looked after your pelvic floor, were they things that you thought about and were able to get support? Because you live in a remote area.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, we're really lucky. We actually have one particular women's pelvic floor physio that's on the coast, so that's awesome. But she only opened a couple of years after I'd had my bum, so I wasn't able to access her support. But I did an online program for the first, I think it was 12 weeks or up to 6 months, depending on how intense. Program online, and that was excellent. That was really, really good for restoring my pelvic floor. But high five for the running pram. That was a savior for me.
Yeah.
So, and we just made it part of our schedule. So the kids just knew Saturday morning we went to park run. They both get in the cruiser, and there's, you know, a few arguments here and there, but always have snacks.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're used to coming along, and, you know, they've got the bug now. They're always cheering on the other park runners. So it's become a really good thing. And yeah, now I've got one at school full time. So my daughter and I, when we have a day together, we're like, right, drop Finn, my son, at the bus, and then we go for a run. And that's what we do every Tuesday morning. So we've just made that part of our routine now. And yeah, Finn just said the other day he'd love to do a park run with me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yay!
Yeah, it's good. It's nice that he's getting the running bug too. But yeah, I'm going to have to check on my own times for that. I know, yes. Swallow my pride.
I quite like that part of the conversation of talking about being, I guess, an inspiration for your kids as well, getting them into running. I guess that's what we all want to see as the future of trail running specifically, although nothing, you know, against just regular running, and park runs obviously are great too. And I'm looking forward to the day when Charlie is able to run with me and not just in the pram. But I mean, is that a big part of why you kind of do what you do, Jo, as well, of wanting to inspire? I mean, do it for yourself, but also inspiring, I guess, your kids.
Yes, absolutely. I think working in healthcare, I just see how important role models are for other people. So I find that being, you know, a mum runner, other mum runners are inspired to run. And I know a number of my friends have got into running with their kids because I've been running with my kids. And now it's a shared experience, and we go running with our mums group on a Thursday night now. And that really stemmed out of, you know, we were running and other people were like, I saw you guys running, can I come along? And so we've built this like organic running group on a Thursday night. And we, right from the start, we were like, let's make it a 6 o'clock start so that we are out of the house before the craziness of dinner, bath, bedtime. And that's been really good. You know, some people are like, oh, I don't know if I can make that time. But when we explain this is the reason why, they're like, I get it. I need to be out of the house at least one night a week to get away from that craziness of, you know, that nighttime routine. So I think definitely being a role model to others, but also role modeling that behavior to my kids, those healthy habits, and having time to yourself. You know, like mum needs a night off to go running, or she's training for a big event, so she needs a bit more time for training and that kind of thing. So they're seeing that, which is great.
Yeah, cool. And Lisa, in your steps to KMR, perhaps, you know, good chance to tell us a bit about what you've been doing. But you've had a mix of women who, some of who are brand new to running, with all sorts of different backgrounds. So what have you found? I guess what are the reasons that have drawn them to want to run KMR and also do your training program and I guess find a new community, which is what Jo's talked about too.
Yeah, for sure. So nearly everyone in the group has joined for that sense of community, which is really lovely. I'm sure my coaching's awesome, but mostly to get friends who run, and just that night out of the house, like you said, Jo, that's scheduled, that you sort of don't have to think about, and just go out and, we work hard, but we talk hard. And it's really great to just have that community where you can talk about all the minutiae of being female runners. And it's just a really lovely vibe. And everyone sort of brings their different backgrounds. Everyone's got really different and cool jobs. We've got a couple of girls that are previously orienteers. We've got quite a few power lifters, which is really cool. And it's just really lovely to have that the community, all age groups, all fitness levels, and it just doesn't matter. And that is a really beautiful thing about women who run. What was the other half of the question?
That was probably enough. And I'm interested for Roxanne, because you're not really a runner, I guess, unless you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was our conversation. And I'm interested to hear what you think, hearing about all of this in the community, and do you find it inspirational? You said, you have these mum crushes as well. I mean, is that something that you can see, given you love the bush, yourself as well? I mean, is there that attraction for you? Is it something that you think, oh, well, maybe I'd like to have a go, or is it not at all for you as someone, kind of on the outer of running?
It is. Look, I love, the sense. I get it. Like, it's one of those things I watch. I'm like, yeah, I get that. Like surfing too. I'm like, yeah, I get how good that would feel, but it's just not for me. So I love, like, for me, being in the bush and being in nature is really about mindfulness. And so I've done a lot of, my background is more hiking, so multi-day, like 7-day hikes, carrying heavy weight. Like, I've got a deadlifting background previous to children. And I have hypermobile patellas and a whole bunch of knee issues that just aren't fabulous for running. But I love seeing it and hearing about it. But yeah, for me, I like to slow down when I'm in the bush. So I'd be more of a walker.
But I'm sure Lisa and Jo will tell you that it doesn't matter about pace out on the trails, right? So
I feel like that's the secret of trail running. It's not about running. It's a lot about walking.
And chatting as you walk.
Because I do a lot of trails. And me and my son are in the bush we always go on bushwalks. So maybe I should just call it trail running.
If you're running downhill, then that's trail running pretty much.
Chasing my toddler.
Exactly. And Lisa, with the group, as you say, everyone's come from different backgrounds. Did you find as well that everyone was coming to running with different thoughts about what they were going to get out of it, but confidence levels as well? And is there a difference between women and men, without completely stereotyping, that you've kind of that you've worked with and seen and observed as part of doing the Steps to KMR?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that women like to be confident in what they're doing. They like to understand what's going on. They like to get it right. And maybe that is, I was thinking about this yesterday, because we do, I think, put in a bit more effort to get it done. Like you said, no matter how fair the load might be, it usually does fall to us to sort of organize the babysitter, or there's just a few more extra steps for us to get out the door to run, even if that's just, the hours that you've put into your pelvic floor that your partner has no idea about. And so I think, there's this sort of higher sense of we want to put in the work, we want to get out the outcomes, and we want to do it in a way that we're not going to get hurt, and that we're going to be safe, and that we're going to have fun. So I think that that's quite different. We're probably not as blasé about what we're doing. And that might also come from a place sometimes of a lack of confidence. We just want a little more reassurance about what we're doing, and that you can get in any awesome group of women So, whether it's a structured group or just a bunch of friends, a Running Mums Australia group, even parkrun, like you just kind of get that group confidence, and there's always someone to ask your questions, whether it's, what are those shoes that you're wearing, or what's the best brand of sports bra that doesn't chafe. It's just really, it's really good to be able to sort of have that.
And in terms of confidence as well, do you find that women are more likely to perhaps be more hesitant to particularly maybe to sign up to an event because they're worried that they're going to be at the back of the pack? Lisa, I'll get you to answer that first, but then Jo, as someone who's proud to be in that area is what you say. I guess I'd love to hear what you think or how you have dealt with that yourself. And if it's more of a mind game than obviously the physical.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like 1,000% a mind game. And especially when you get to trail running. Road running, there's definitely this thing where you run and you try not to stop running. Trail running, is mostly trail walking, especially in Tasmania, where everything's either straight up or straight down, and then the flats are covered in boulders. So, there's, I don't know. And I guess that's the other beautiful thing about trail running is once you start, everyone just kind of goes and you're on a trail. You don't even know where everyone is. Like, there's no such thing as a back of the pack runner. I've definitely arrived back at a finish line and thought, I'm doing pretty well today. And I found out I'm at the back and I just didn't even know. So it just doesn't matter. And that's really cool about trail running. You can walk the whole way. There were so many people who walked the whole Foothills course last year, and no one cares. I just think you're awesome for doing it. And yeah, that's definitely really cool.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued.
I'm definitely, as a person that I feel that expectation that, I should be getting faster because I'm doing all this training and stuff, but I don't know, I'm just happy at my pace. I feel like, I'm out there doing the same distance as everyone else. It doesn't matter that it takes me a little bit longer. And I want to be able to, I don't want to be laid up on the couch for a week because I can't move because I went really hard. And then, I miss out on other things with my kids, or I feel like I'm much more sort of conscious about being injured as well. I'm like, oh, if I get injured, who's going to carry the load of all the things that I do? And that sort of plays on my mind as well. But I think also Lisa mentioned that comforting community. So I think as women, we're a little bit more fearful. We want to know what's coming. We're like, okay, I need to know how long is this trail run going to be? What's it going to entail? Is there anything I need to be prepared for? Which that mindset is good and bad. Sometimes it's good to let go of that sort of comfort of knowing and go into something a little bit more unknown to challenge ourselves. But I think being in a community where you don't feel like you can't ask the question, or I feel for me in particular, I don't have to feel like I'm too slow for some groups, because I'm like, that's just, they know me, that's just how it is, and I feel okay with the people that I'm around, that they're accepting of that. Which is great. I think a barrier for some women starting running is their partners or, males in their life or whatever. They can just go out and run, sub 35K, straight off the bat, or they can run up a whole way up a hill. They don't have to walk. And women are like, I could never do that. Running is not for me, or trail running is not for me because of that reason. And then having a community like Running Mums is fantastic, Running Mums Australia. But yeah, the small little mum running groups and women's running groups that are around, because it gives you that confidence of, okay, yeah, we're all in this together and we don't have to be super fast. We can go at our own pace. So
yeah, awesome. That convinced you now, Roxanne?
Kinda.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends who love running, and they were so excited when I was doing Kmart, because my friend missed out last year because her hubby did it and she really wanted to do it, and they're doing the timetabling of who runs when. And yeah.
And you also mentioned, Roxanne, knees that mean that you're not unable to run, etc. And I think something certainly our scholarships team has been working really hard on, and I think Lisa, you'll be able to speak to this a lot, is about the importance of doing strength training to kind of complement you're running, and to make sure that, because I mean, it is a bit more technical, and knees and ankles don't like all the rocks and things like that we have as opposed to the roads, although I'd say there's benefits of the trails, that you don't get on hard roads as well. But like, how important is that stuff as well, Lisa? And again, how do we find the time to also do the strength training as well as the actual running out on the trails, etc.? But specifically for women, is it quite different for women versus men?
Yeah, it is, because we go through such distinct hormonal phases in our lives, which actually makes it more important that we do it. Our long-term bone health, it's just critical that we get that strength training in. We lift those, those weights that we're sort of always a bit about. But it's incredibly beneficial for our running, and it's incredibly beneficial for our long-term all-around health. How do you fit it in? If you can carve out twice a week, it can be short, like half an hour, then I'd be so happy. All your coaches would be so happy. Your bones and your bodies will be so happy. And that can be, an online program. It can be in a gym. It can be physio prescribed. It can be something that you find on Instagram. Just try and do something in that cross-training strength weight space twice a week if you can. And, if you haven't got sort of a dedicated session, then 10 minutes at the end of your run is great. Anything's better than nothing. I also know that, for people who love the freedom of running, particularly trail runners, we'd love to get out in the bush and see the wallabies and breathe the fresh air. And then the idea of going to a gym to lift weights can be a bit off-putting. And, that precious alone time that you have to spend that doing that, no. But you do get used to it. Put a podcast on, you can wear the cute little shorts that are really not practical to wear trail running, and just try and find those things, and eventually you'll kind of get used to it. And when you start seeing the improvements, you'll be like, it's actually pretty good. So yeah, it's really important. We need to do it, but yeah.
I hope it's okay for me to jump in. I've just signed up to Bump. So there's a new gym in Hobart that has crèche for your children, and it's the best. So my kids are very happy, and I get to do my workout, even have a shower alone, and it's amazing. And they have everything from hardcore strength stuff to yoga. It's really, really real, and it's like that village feel, because the macho gyms are a bit much, and I've had all kinds of advice given to me over the years when I was lifting quite heavy. So it's like you walk in and it's like just a really beautiful vibe, and it's all women and mums, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, that's great endorsement. I have been looking at that, and it's on my list to try them. I might wait until after the birth of my next child, just a few weeks away. But I mean, places like Hobart, even quite small, Joe, must be even harder to find places that do that as well and provide the crèche, but also, I guess, provide that right community feel as well. Some people, are happy to go to the Fast and the Furious types gyms, as you say, Lisa, but a lot of the trail runners perhaps might be put off by that. So if anyone tuning in has other suggestions or questions, feel free to do so on that specific topic, or anything else as well, while we've still got everyone on the line. But we will wrap up very shortly. One of the key issues that is kind of a bit of an elephant in the room, and that is more women's specific, although obviously anyone could face this as well, is the issue of considering your safety when you're out running on the trails remotely. And of course, this is really timely at the moment because of the unfortunate situation in Victoria where the woman, Samantha Murphy, went running and is still missing at the moment as well. And she was out running in a remote location as well. Is that something, Lisa and Joe, that when you go running out on the trails, that one you've considered, and perhaps are you considering it more because of when we see events or incidents like this in the news? We'll start, I guess, with what it's like, and then we can jump into finding some solutions and sharing some ideas.
Definitely front of mind for me since what happened with Samantha, but also there's been, reports sort of leading up to that in various different states where things have happened. So it probably has made me a little bit more conscious. And this training block leading up to KMR, I have been doing some long trail days on my own just to fit in with my work roster. I find, I've got a morning without kids, so I'll go out for a few hours. And so I've started using like a live track through Garmin, and we can talk about that later, how that works. But I've found it's comforting for me, it's comforting for my husband, and I just feel like that's a little bit of extra safety. And it's really sad that I need that. I've never had an issue running in, the bush, especially my local trails, the Dial Range in Penguin. I feel really safe there. I haven't had an issue, but it only takes one time, doesn't it? So I've definitely started thinking about it more since that. But I didn't use any tracking previous to that.
And Lisa, I mean, a lot of people use things like Strava as well. So we're kind of actually automatically tracking ourselves, but that can also probably work against us in this sort of situation as well. So, yeah, I mean, what's it been like for you, and what do you do?
Yeah, it's definitely like there can't be a female runner in Australia that's not thinking about this at the moment. It's just traumatizing, and I just feel so terrible for that community. And yeah, it's in the back of your mind when you go for a run, without a doubt. And it has been, there's often night runs when you're running, and you kind of just get the creepies, and yeah, it's sad that we have to think that. It's just so wrong, and I hate this conversation because it's sort of, what can we do about it? Well, it's actually not our problem. But unfortunately we can't do anything practical about the actions of others. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good excuse to get a new puppy. I've been trying to convince my husband that a German Shepherd would be fun, but he disagrees because I already have a Corgi who's less than terrifying. But practical measures, I'd make sure that my Strava has a safety zone. It's a really easy setting so that when I do put runs up, you can't actually, I think it's a 500-meter bubble around my house. And things like that. I, try not to run in the city in places I know are not great at night. Funnily enough, I did actually talk to the Steps to KMR members about this, and every single one of them said they felt much safer on the trails than they do in town, which is really lovely. So, it's kind of nice that we haven't sort of lost that feeling of security, and that's still our happy place. Like, I'm really glad that we kind of got that. And I mean, I agree. I feel safe out in the bush. It's my happy place. And yeah, I think it's big in our minds at the moment, but at the end of the day, it's very, very, very rare. And yeah, it's we can't sort of let our happy place be taken, I guess.
No. And we might actually have to think more about, the risk of snakes or wallabies,
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
Having a PO, like a personal location, like for the multi-day hikes and stuff, like we would be thinking about, okay, if you roll your ankle or break your ankle and you're in a rural area, a PLB, or at least if your phone can use SOS, making sure that those things are in place. I was talking to a pregnant lady who's Canadian, beautiful, and she was doing hikes that were only very narrow paths, and she almost trod on a snake. Had a 3-year-old behind her and had never heard of a personal location beacon. Her phone had no service, not even SOS. And I was like, okay, you need to get that if you're going to keep doing these. So yeah, thinking about things like that are definitely important too.
And Jo, you mentioned the Garmin as well. So that kind of works in that same way. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, so I think I've had set up on the Garmin like if you fall or suddenly stop, it sends a emergency message, and I've accidentally set that off before, so I know that that works, which is comforting. But I've also started using, it's called Garmin Live Track, so you can turn it on through your Garmin Connect app, and then share that link with whoever you want to send it to, whether it's your partner or your other relative or friends or whatever, and they can actually track your location when I think it's when you've got cellular data, which that is the downside to it, but it will drop in and out on runs. So if it drops out because I go in a no service area, I know that it comes back on when I get back into service. So my husband can track where I am based on the Garmin Live Track, because I'm tracking my run on my Garmin as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great. And if there's any additional questions that people want to ask, now is your chance, because I've got one last one for our lovely panelists here. And it's just to kind of jump back to looking at events like KMR. It's no secret that we're an advocate for trying to level the playing field and do things better for women to be able to enter our events and run in them and enjoy running with Kunanyi. So we've already discussed, the bush play, the kids drop off. We introduced last year, and we'll do it again, having sanitary products at our aid stations and at the run hubs for those times, particularly when you don't expect it, and it sometimes can happen when you're out in the bush. We have our pregnancy deferral policy. So because we know that, falling pregnant doesn't always happen at the time we plan, or even if it does. And so trying to make sure that we're accommodating of that. Also really excited that this year we're going to have a space for breastfeeding and changing nappies, and just a quiet space for others as well, should they need it as well, at the Run Hub. So those are some of the things that we're doing, but there's always lots of different other things that we could do. I mean, obviously we partnered with you, Lisa, as well, to have that safe community, and we'll develop a community for people to train with. And obviously then, as you said, you're going to be busy across the weekend supporting your little group of female runners across the weekend. Are there other things that we should be considering for years to come? Lisa, I might start with you.
Oh, yeah, it's such an epic and amazing list of things that you just said. I can't really think of anything else. I think having the training groups is awesome. The bush play is that's the game changer this year. I'm so excited, and I just hope every other event in Australia sees that and is like, now we'd better do it. That is it.
Yeah, awesome. Jo, anything, because you're also quite an active member of the Running Mums Australia group, which is a fabulous group if you haven't come across it yet, on particularly the socials. And I know, you shared it there as well, and everyone was also very excited. But are there other ideas that people share and bubble away in those sorts of conversations in the Facebook feeds there?
Definitely the sort of family area, the quiet space shouldn't be undersold, because one of the stories that one of the mums put up when I posted that was that they had to breastfeed their child in a portaloo after one of the ultras, and they were like, it was horrid. So I think even just having that space is so, like, I always bring my kids to the events because I love them to be involved, and KMR is awesome with the Run Hub that you've got. There's so much for the kids to do. It's really cool that they are included as well, but it's so nice to have a quiet space, even just to take the kids in just for a bit of 10 minutes of like destimulation, and then go back out and join the fun again. But I think definitely the course previews. I feel like KMR is a bit of a leader in that space too. You do the trail run, the group runs leading up to the event, so that gives people an opportunity to try out some of the trails when they might feel nervous about running them on their own. I tuned in the other night for the course preview live chat as well, and that was awesome. I feel like really prepared now, and I feel like that's comforting for a lot of other mums as well. So Yes, and the bush play, yeah, that's the game changer. And I really hope that other events adopt that too, because we want to be able to travel with our kids and go to events. And if other events adopt it, they'll be top of the list. Definitely.
Yeah, and I can tell you that Lincoln is committed to doing bush play for the next 3 years. So even if we, see the first year as a little bit smaller, we understand because people are hesitant, not sure, or, perhaps it's a little bit last minute and people aren't feeling as prepared to be able to enter the 25K, for example. So, Roxanne, I haven't told you that, but we're doing this for the next few years.
Feeling a lot of pressure.
Because we believe in it. And also, we also want to use it too for our kids. Just thought I'd share a comment here from Laurel, who's joined in, who says, fabulous, what a refreshing support system in place for this event. You're modelling event management for the world. Well, thank you for that. We'll say, I can't remember where I saw it, but someone said that they lived in Sweden at some point and they'd done similar, I don't know if it was a kind of a bush play or at least childcare at a run event as well. So perhaps that doesn't surprise me. Scandinavian countries leading as well, but that might be somewhere we can be looking as well. Roxanne, obviously as a non-runner, but as someone who's in this space, particularly out of the bush, any thoughts from you about what else, and as a mum, or other ways that we can support our beautiful community?
I think you're doing so much, honestly. I've been looking at reading all the flyers, and I actually hadn't heard of KMR, not a runner, but everyone I've spoken to, or my girlfriend's like, oh my God, that's so exciting. I love mountain run. I've wanted to do it or have done it. And so, yeah, I think you guys and you especially at 36 weeks pregnant are doing an amazing job. And from an outside, it just seems really well organized, which I agree with Jo. That's another thing. You don't want to have to add anything else to your list. You want to be able to show up and run and feel confident that someone else has organized it for you. And that's what we're doing with bush play too. So you can literally just drop your kid off and we've got them and they're going to have a blast. And it's something that you don't have to think about. They're going to have a good time and that they'll be safe and supported. And yeah, it's nice. It seems like you've got all the boxes ticked.
Well, thank you. We're constantly learning and we're always asking for feedback as well from the community. So keep that in mind, everyone who's tuned in or catching up later as well, that, we're flexible and things will change and we want to be here to support everyone as best we can to run with Kunanyi. I think that's probably it for this evening. I'm amazed that all four of us are here and there are no children that have disturbed us. So the only issue was our technology, but we got there as well, and what a great conversation it was. So on behalf of everyone who's tuned in and who will tune in, thank you all for joining this chat tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in person in a few weeks, as long as I don't have a baby over KMR weekend. That is the plan, to keep them in for another 4 weeks. But thank you everyone who's joined, and we can't wait to see you in a few weeks. Always get in touch via our socials if you have questions. Our other live streams for the last few weeks are also still available on our Facebook page as well, just via the videos tab if you want to catch up. And we've got an awesome one next week as well. We're going to be joined by the 2021 Australian of the Year, Grace Tame, who's running the mountain run, as well as Simone Brick, who's a Salomon runner, and Lincoln Quilliam, our RD, will be in conversation with our KMR MC Maney, talking about harnessing our mental strength. So how do we get the mental strength and how do we draw on that when we are struggling out on the trails, but also the flip side of that, how do the trails give us that mental strength? And both, particularly Simone and Grace, as we know, have some pretty incredible background stories. And so that conversation is going to be really interesting. We will have that next week at 8 p.m. if technology works for us. But until then, I'll let everyone go. Thanks again, ladies, for your time, and everyone who's joined us. It's been great.
Bye.
Yeah.